and I'm out walking, further than I've walked in months, and the whole world is cold and white, but the cold feels kind of good on my face.
Is his mouth still really dry?
I don't know, Maddie. I don't ask him.
Well, why
Is
not?
he doing his exercises?
Guys, we don't talk about it. Yeah, I'm sort of having like the worst moment of my life right now. Well, almost the worst, like the second worst moment of my life so far.
Sorry.
Yeah, my dad has cancer.
The thing that always gets me is this. You're outside, you're looking up at the sky, you're having a nice moment, you're aware that it's a nice moment in your life. But then, how long should you let that moment go on? Or should you just keep on looking at the sky forever?
Most of my plays come from a feeling or an emotion I'm having. I think that's often why my plays are very personal. Like there will be some little exchange that will hopefully come to me in a way that feels that I didn't think of, that just like comes. And then from around that I can like build a play. With You Got Older in particular, I had this big emotional thing. My dad had been diagnosed with cancer, and I had just ended a 5-year relationship and lost my job, so I was dealing with those emotions. But then I got this directive from my teacher at the time who told me to write the most boring scene I possibly could. Now, like, it's not very romantic, but I'm always writing, keeping a note on my phone, because that's the quickest thing. Stuff I overhear or stuff that just like comes to me when I'm listening to music. Generally, I've worked in short bursts, and the reason I find that helpful is because you start dreaming about your play. You wake up in the middle of the night, it becomes this. I think, honestly, to write a play, I have to get a little possessed and obsessed, and so like being able to concentrate it is really helpful.
I never start the same way, and a lot of times I don't know until I start. Before auditions, I read the play, and I read it, and I read it over and over again. I just read it and let it work on me and just listen to it. For You Got Older, since the designer is a student and this is her capstone project, I'm much more interested in what are your first thoughts? Fortunately, we agree on a lot of the same things, like simple things like, do I really want any doors or walls? And so that's a place to start.
And I usually read the play about 3 times to begin with, and then I start sort of doing visual research online. I always make a Pinterest board for my designs, and I kind of work from there, going back and forth, meetings with directors, more visual research, coming up with ideas, drafting them down, deciding they're terrible, throwing them out, coming up with new things. The first time that I read the script, I'm really just looking for plot, characters, really just the basics of what's going on. The second time is sort of to get a deeper meaning of the play, figure out what sort of like aesthetic might go with it, what kind of feels right, if there's colors that are kind of standing out to me that are mentioned in the script, or if there are particular props or scenes that really stand out. And then the third time is really where I go through and make like an actual practical list of, okay, we need 4 chairs, we need a table, we need a bar, we need this, that, the other thing.
I love what Ren, who's the designer, and she and I both got this sense of this. It's a very sensual play, and there's something very natural and organic about it. So she's looking at things like, I'm thinking about having real dirt. Like, great, I love that. Let's smell things, because the characters talk a lot about the family smell. Which, like, well, okay, let's add that into the set design. So I like that.
The Pinterest board is, sometimes it's direct images that I am like, okay, this is what I want, but a lot of it is really just like things that feel like the play to me. So like this play takes place in Washington State, so I have like a huge number of actually just old buildings from Eastern Washington, which is where this takes place. So there's actually like a ton of posts about like abandoned ghost towns, and then like pictures of the woods and like color palettes and like things that, you know, are a little less direct and a little more abstract, things that just have like nice progression lines, a little bit of everything.
And when someone reads for something like, I never thought of that, mostly I go into auditions not looking for anything like, oh, that this character has to be like this, so I'm looking for someone that someone will fit this. I don't do that at all. Most of the time I won't even look at who's auditioning. I just wait for, this sounds so like, I don't know. I just wait for some sort of impulse to happen, something instinctual that feels like, this is someone that I would love to see do this part.
When I first get the script, I like to read really deeply into the lines, trying to figure out exactly who the character is. Then it's really important to figure out a character by the things that aren't said in the script. So, Mac doesn't really say a whole lot. There aren't a whole lot of details about him, so I've got a lot of leeway with creating the character that I want to play. So I'm not really sure yet. There's the whole idea in acting that you're not playing a character, you're playing yourself, kind of like adding it to the character. So for Mac, he's very similar to me, I'd say. He's just some young he's just a young guy, honestly. That's what you get from the script. I like to memorize lines by just reading them once a day, honestly. Like, right when I get the script, I will read all the scenes I'm in.
For me, learning my lines, I want to learn it so well that I can recite it, and then I want to learn it so much better than that it doesn't even sound like I'm reciting.
I don't prepare as much as I should with memorization of lines, to be honest, because once I do it on stage, I know it for the most part. I'll do it on stage and I'll do it in a rehearsal, and then after that I'll look over it like maybe once, and then I have it, like it's locked in my head once I've done it up on its feet. So preparing just kind of stresses me out. I just have to trust that I'll figure it out.
No, I have a little system I use that a director in the past taught me, and I just write down the first letter of each word, and that helps me, and I just run lines with anybody I can find that's willing to run lines with me.
Claire's gonna be like coming to rehearsals, and I think that is gonna make the dynamics of like actor, director, actor, playwright more interesting, maybe more stressed even. Because now you can't like say words differently than they are written in the script when the playwright's coming. Not that you should do that anyway, and I try not to, but like, this time around it'll be really hammered down on us, like, don't screw up.
You might not know exactly where your character's going to go, what's going to happen, but as you're reading it, talking to Colleen, the director, kind of gauging what she thinks my character desires or what his objective is. At the same time, looking for those contexts in the script, those little nuances. A lot of times those don't come out until you're in rehearsal.
So in the beginning of a process, I think this is normal for a lot of actors and actresses. You make it very personal. You look at past experiences in your own life to try and get emotion that seems natural. So I don't know, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm taking the scenes that are about family and cancer and all of these things and looking in my past experiences to take my emotions from that. And then hopefully along the way I stop being me and I start being May. And with every rehearsal you kind of find an integration between myself and the character. My scenes with Christian and my siblings in the family scenes are very, they're very normal, and I just approach it like I would talk to my own family. And then the ones that are more fantasy and sexual are kind of like I'm playing pretend.
The scene that Hannah is in is the family scene, and the entire scene relies on everybody else kind of jumping on top of each other with lines, just how like a real family communicates. So I really rely on everybody else to kind of push me in the both emotional and physical direction, so we all have to kind of work together. So
I also do some sketching as I'm going through, usually really like loose, rough designs, just sort of like things that come to me. A lot of it actually happens in school notebooks. Let's be real, we all get bored during class. This is kind of how I fill my time. I always really love working with other people. I think that theater is always a collaborative process, and there's a huge number of people involved anytime you're putting on any kind of show, whether that's a skit in a black box or a full-scale production.
The first thing you need is the scenic design. You need to know what the set's going to look like, what scenic elements there's going to be, where the action is going to be happening based on the scenic pieces. And then after you take that into effect, then I'll sit down and figure out what my options are for where I can put lights, because a lot of times scenic elements affect where lights can go. The other key thing for me is knowing the blocking. So I can come up with a generic plot of lighting, what I'm planning on using, but that changes a lot within the last 2 weeks after I've seen the show. I might have already put the plot together and decided, okay, I don't need this light, or I need to move this light somewhere else, that kind of thing. As I'm building the cues, watching the rehearsals and adjusting things, I'll either add in more things every night to kind of layer the looks and get a more dimensional look. I mean, this current show, You Got Older, Colleen and I met before we really started into things, and she gave me a lot of ideas she was looking for the show, which is a great thing to have a director who's got ideas about what they're looking for.
We did a run yesterday, and halfway through I forgot that I was doing a show. I just get so caught up in May's interactions with her characters, and I'm still trying to remember my lines and like what scene comes next and where I'm supposed to go in this one, and oh, what cowboy scene is this? So I'm trying to catch on to all of that, but I forget that I'm performing. I just like live in May, and I'm just living through her life, and I'm like, oh wait, there's people watching, like I need to be aware of that. So hopefully I can figure that out.
And we're getting all the pieces, like we're putting all the pieces together. Yesterday we just took a look at impossible costumes, and we are adding and like we're adding now furniture and lights and sound. Like we just had Erica on our run add little bits of sound to it, and it changes everything. Like everything's so much more emotional and it's more real now. So I mean, it's difficult because now we have to add these pieces in, but it's awesome because now these pieces are here. So
Yeah, the music is huge. It's so helpful. We added music in my monologue and in all the cowboy scenes, which is so helpful because the music of the cowboy scene just sets the mood. You know what's going on. And then the music of the monologue, it's this really gorgeous piano piece, which like, it's just so helpful. It's like almost like cheating how helpful it is.
Yeah.
Like I have to do so much less work with the music. So I'm very grateful for the music.
I think it'll help the audience too, because because you don't ever leave, and all of a sudden it's like, well, look, Dad, a pepper, and then it's like cowboy coming. So the music, I think, helps everyone be like, okay, this is for when the cowboy is here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I think it might end up being the best part about the show is the music.
Just in general, music's a great place to have source material. If you're doing some sort of a warm-up and you put music underneath it, it completely changes the mood of the warm-up, which is just, it's fascinating to me. So right now I'm just kind of trying to put together a first draft of all of the sound stuff. We've looked at some songs that we like. There's 2 songs, Firewood by Regina Spektor and Timber by Kesha and Pitbull, that are mentioned in the play specifically. Because Firewood was Claire's father's actual cancer song, as it is the dad in the play, and Claire was listening to Timber when she thought of the final dance scene. The ones that I'm looking at right now are just kind of ones like bird sounds for like when they're outside looking at the garden. So it'll like in the beginning of the play when everything's new and kind of happier, having the birds, and then like as it's winter time, like no birds, and like the contrast between that.
I almost always start with listening to music no matter what I'm directing, even if it's not going to have any music in it. With Claire's play, she had 2 songs that were part of the play, so I started listening to those first, and then I'm on Spotify all the time. It was just my life. It's on every device that I own when I drive. I think of the play in terms of musicality and orchestration, and it has a rhythm and a feeling that feels very musical to me. Every play has a sound.
Finding the right balance between sound and silence, because a lot of this show is so focused on the characters, you don't really want anything drawing away from it, and there's a lot of points in the script when it says they sit in silence, and so for those moments I want it to be silent.
Having the playwright here 2 weeks ago or whenever it was nice. I'm trying to decide if my character is a big old drunk or if he's just like a normal dude that goes to bars a lot. I don't know, that's where I am right now. It's also going up next week, so I don't think I have like a lot of time to make that decision. We'll see. It's going well though. The scenes are good. Me and Emily are making out more and better, so that's good.
It's been really amazing to be here at Gettysburg to work on this play. It's only the second time I've ever had an opportunity to work on this play, which is actually huge because the first time, in my experience, first productions are so traumatic that it's just like being hit by a bus or a train. And in the case of You Got Older, it was so quick. Like the play, I finished the play in June, and it was in front of an audience by October, which is like, that never happens. And so I was so like still in the emotional eye of the storm, and I was so like traumatized in a way just because it was so close to me that it's been actually very profound to be here and to get to revisit this text. I remember when I was working on the play the first time, I was always like staring at the page because I was still doing a lot of rewriting, and it's been such a gift. Like there's still some little tweaks and stuff I want to make to the text, but it's been a gift to sort of be like, I'm not going to look at the script, I'm just going to watch the actors and I'm just going to listen and try to like really see what something is. And with that sort of emotional distance, I'm learning new things about the play, or I'm understanding things about the structure of the play or a character that I was so close to it the first time I did it that I didn't. It's just like it's like a new vantage point.
It was actually pretty intense having Claire here, and she's a friend of mine. I know her. I've known her for a long time. But I felt there was this good stress in the room. I think the actors maybe felt a little stressed, like, oh, I don't want to do the wrong thing. But the best thing, which was that she kept saying, she would answer my questions, and then she would say, you find your own way.
I was really nervous for Claire to come, just because she's a playwright. Like, she wrote this and she won awards for it, and she has been through all of it. She's seen it be performed, and I didn't want to fail her story. And like we were so early in the rehearsal process too, that for her to come and for us to just perform like little scenes was like and I wanted notes so badly from her to be like, this is what I want you to do and this is what I want to see. And she was so open to like letting us create our own characters, which was amazing.
Yeah, Claire was really great, and I don't think she, tried to direct it in any way or tried to take control of the production, which was cool. She was just very helpful and kind of like gave people just different ideas that they hadn't thought of before with their character, but it was nice. She was very like hands-off, like.
We were talking a little bit last night at rehearsal because in the hospital scene there's these baseball caps that people pull down over their eyes whenever they cry, which is something that I made up. My friend's mom used to do that with us for scary movies when we were kids. I remember we watched Jurassic Park and she'd give us all baseball caps so that if we ever got scared we could hide, and I just like stole that and adapted it for crying.
It's fun. It's easier now. I don't know if easier, but I am more comfortable with my character.
I think it's really hard. I thought it was easier in the beginning, and then I realized that I was doing it wrong. Well, not wrong, more just like May is not supposed to be as nice as I thought she was. So I'm trying to make her meaner and more selfish, but it's hard.
Emily said like she's now found out that May is not as nice as she thought she was. Also helps turn the whole scene into a different direction as well. Yeah, because now the family starts to see that, that maybe May is not as nice as we thought she was.
Which is also a lot of pressure for me because my character development is what everyone else's character development relies on, because their characters based on their interactions with me. So I don't know, it's very stressful, but I mean, it's fun. Like, I love it. It's just a lot of pressure at times.
Yeah, I'm only on stage with Emily, so my I feel like my whole character is kind of like only important in the way that like he changes Emily. He's kind of really written in there, in my opinion, as like a way for Emily's character to reveal some of her inner emotions, because she doesn't talk about like her sex life or like her rash or with anyone else, and she can only complain about her dad to me, because otherwise she's only in the scenes with her dad or her family members. So I'm really like a therapeutic sort of character, I think. But it's good because, you know, when I'm working with Emily specifically, like, I think me and her are pretty comfortable with each other in real life and not just in the show. So there is like that sort of therapeutic element. Like, I think it's easy for her to just like say whatever she wants, and I kind of just watch. Like, honestly, that's what my character is for. I'm just like a listener basically, but you know, it works out because me and Emily work well together. And when, I don't know, you never really think about like making out with your friends, I guess, until you have to in a theater show. Like, I never really considered that with Emily, but you know, here we are, and it's pretty funny. We just like, you know, laugh through most of it.
With this play, because it is, I don't want to get in their way too much. I want to give them as much agency as possible, and there's not a lot of difficult staging. Like, there's some technical staging things, and it's so I want them to find their way into the characters themselves, and so I want to know what they're thinking. What is it? What's happening here? So I always ask questions in rehearsal. It's certainly part of my process, but it's much more part of this one. And I love what they were doing from the beginning. So that's something I'm always sensitive to. Like, how much do I need to get in your way? Sometimes you need to get in their way.
Colleen's really big on like ensemble directing, so she gives a lot of freedom to the actors and lets them do what they want to do.
Yeah, I think we all come at it from different approaches. So I come at things from a very emotional approach. I always want to figure out what the emotions are in the scene. So if I don't understand how May feels in a scene, it's really hard for me to figure out what to do, which is why this transition from her being nice to her being a little bit more selfish and needy is difficult for me, because I have to change how she feels about everything. But then, like, I think you look at things more as, like, you see things from more of a comedic point of view.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's the question?
You can't really tell someone act happy, act sad. She helps us figure out where those emotions come from, how we can use our objectives to, you know, create that emotion, that connection with the other characters.
I feel like I'm constantly trying to figure out what she means.
Yeah.
And I usually know. Like, I usually can understand what the answer she wants you to say when she asks you a question. If it's asked at anyone else. When it's asked at me, I have no clue. I have no idea. So I just try to be really, I don't know, she's like magic. I don't know how she does it, but it's
She's
like...
literally a magical human being.
She just like, I don't know. I'm not going to go into this whole theater psychology thing, but they're the same thing. And she gets that. So, like, yes, lots of questions, hard to answer them.
But not hard at the same time.
But not hard. And, like, regardless of what answer you give, she's going to find a way to get you to give the answer that she wants.
And she'll never let you be lost. She'll ask you a question, but you'll never be like, what? Yeah, I'm never, like, lost.
No.
In what she's trying to ask me.
No, like, she'll never... Like, if she asks you a question like, oh, what do you think about the character's intention at this moment? If you give an answer that she thinks is wrong, she will let you run with it until you figure out that it's wrong.
Yeah.
Or, if we don't have enough time, she'll be like, no. And I appreciate that just as much.
Yeah.
Tell me the truth, let me figure it out.
I think that probably the most challenging part of it is trying to make sure that the vision in your head matches the vision that everybody else is seeing, and still fits the play. It can be kind of difficult saying, okay, we have 6 different locations, how are we going to do that? Because a lot of times in theater, our instinct is, okay, let's make 5 set pieces that move in and out, and we'll have the super realistic, like, okay, the bar is going to be this super realistic setting, and the kitchen is going to be this super realistic setting. And I think that learning to let go of realism and let yourself say, okay, we can just suggest a bar. We can suggest a kitchen. It doesn't need to be, a checkered tile floor with a kitchen table and a vase with a flower in it. It's okay. It can just be a table and some chairs.
I like how it's looking. It's a suggestion. It's not. And I like how that juxtaposes with this really hyper realistic text.
Most challenging aspect so far for me, the cowboy is really dangerous, really sexual, really dangerous. Which I'm not saying I'm not sexy and not dangerous, but he's kind of over the top to the point where it's it's hard to get to there, hard to get to that level and sustain it for so long.
I think it's both hard to get into it and hard to leave it. I have a really hard time leaving whatever I was doing before rehearsal and just snapping into May. I mean, 20 minutes into it, I'm fine, but those 20 minutes are really awkward for me. And then when I leave, if I'm doing the dad scenes, I'm just so sad. And if I'm doing the family scene, I'm so caught up in it. I'm usually leaving rehearsal very sad. And it takes a little while for me to get out of that.
Actually, after rehearsal, typically, just a little drained, a little more than I expect every time.
I think for me, I can separate it pretty well, and I think it also helps them. Again, my character is not in most of the super heavy scenes. I never really deal with some of the more powerful emotions that everyone else in the cast has to deal with the death of a father. So yeah, I go to rehearsal, and for me it's mostly pretty funny and fun, and then I leave and it's, I don't know, then I can finally do my homework. I don't know, easy separation for me.
When you start getting the set up, when you start getting certain parts of your costume, certain props, it's definitely really helpful. For instance, on the cowboy, he wears cowboy boots, which I never do in real life. So it's just real different to walk around in cowboy boots versus sneakers or something. So that's really, really helpful.
When I very first start with the script, I'm really just trying to, just like as an audience member, when you go into a show, you're kind of going in trying to let it hit you and see what you feel and react to, and start getting a sense of who the characters are through the way they use language. And I'll take those images to the director and we kind of talk through them and say okay, what parts of this feel right, and so you start went through those conversations, you start discovering what it how this dad needs to look kind of fleshed out. You have to look at someone in at least 3 times as much stuff as they're actually gonna wear, but sometimes it's 10 or 15 times as much, just so you can start understanding what your palette is, what you have to work with.
You don't just move through the space. It all matters and means something. It's all storytelling.
Yes, I'm incredibly happy with it. I didn't expect it to be as successful as it's been. My character is a little bit different every show depending on how I'm feeling and how the audience is reacting. But I like it. I like that May has these complexities to her and she's not the same every night, because I think that would become a little too mundane. So I kind of just let the show lead the character, which changes every night. But yeah, I'm incredibly pleased with how it's turned out. I think it's really beautiful.
Oh, well, I loved it. I loved watching it every night and just watching it, because I think sometimes I stood in the back and watched, so I could watch from a really great distance, and sometimes I sat in with the audience, and it always felt there's shades of nuance and difference every night, which I thought was really important. So yeah, I'm super proud of their work. I think it was hard, vulnerable, egoless work that they did.
I love it. I think it is a awesome show. I think we all found very like unique characters, and we all made them our own, and our personality comes through in all of them, and together it's something beautiful.
The show, good show. You know, the playwright came yesterday, and she really enjoyed it. I mean, like, what more can you ask for? You know.
But she said at the end of the show, she just kind of like wiped her eyes and said, "Ugh, it's beautiful." And then afterwards, we talked more about the play than the production. She's like, "You guys figured out this moment, and now it makes much more sense than what I originally intended."
On three,
On three.
we'll describe.
One word,
yeah,
alright.
in one word.
Describe the play in one word on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Great.
Treacherous.
Close.
Proud.
It's been a lot of self-discovery, and it's what I was saying yesterday. I was talking to Colleen about it. Like, the show is so realistic, and it's about something that happens in people's lives every single day. So at the end of the show, there's nothing left in me. I'm not generating these moments. They're real, and I'm just taking every piece of my vulnerability and giving it to the audience. So at the end, I'm empty, and I have no idea what to say to people after the show. So it's been absolutely very challenging, but beautiful at the same time.